Defense made a motion for a mistrial. Prosecutor was up to some fuckery. Potentially damaging evidence, no basis for it. The judge specifically said, do not ask that question. Do not use that as evidence. She walked right down the path and asked the question. It may be over on Tuesday morning. Batman Bruce Wayne bitch snitch. Gerald Brooks, your constitution does not apply to me because I'm a sovereign citizen, a traveler on the land, I'm the Moorish Empire or whatever, bitch snitch. Because they're so fucking absurd. If you want to be a sovereign citizen, just do yourself a favor first. Go to YouTube here and just get every sovereign citizen that's ever been before. Find me one that won. God dang, you're right. Don't go down this. It's not the path. Don't have time for stupidity. Some clever dick on the internet didn't find the great loophole in all of the world's law. Bitch snitch. God dang, you're right. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. God dang, you're right. Moorish Empire. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. Moorish Empire. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. Late evening U.S. people.
We are mediocre, and all mediocre people can do is get drunk and forget.
Hey, bro, come on, let's get drunk.
What do you got?
I think I can prove to a judge that both of these men had the mens rea.
What the hell is a mens rea?
It's a legal term the lawyers use. It just means the intention to commit a crime.
Okay, come on, let's go.
Mens rea?
Put the cuffs on him.
How could we have gotten mens rea? We take blood? Can you do it without taking blood? We both use condoms. How is this possible? I want to see a doctor. Can I have an independent blood test?
Money!
I feel sick.
What are you doing?
Mens rea! Oh! Oh! My God! No!
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everybody, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing with and all that other stuff. I'm just glad you're doing it here with me, Legal Vices, on this little old channel we have here. We're wading back into deep waters today. We read the affidavit in support of the motion for detention of Matthew Farwell last time, a couple weeks ago when we did this, and we needed a good few week palate cleanser for this. Now we're getting back into it. There's a lot more to look at here, and so none of it's easy. And as I was saying, the stuff that we looked at before, was heavy, and I said that it gets worse. And hi, dog, what's up? Yoda's having a freak out session. Haven't worn this hat in a while either. Got to get it settled in there. There we go. It's been a minute. There we go. All right, we gotta let the dog get the freak out thing. So this is the moment of lightness, people. This is where we release the tension, because once we get into this, it just goes downhill. I swear, the dog just sits there for 23 hours and 58 minutes a day, and then Yoda, are you done? Are you done? No? I guess not. Well, again, find the humor where you can, because it's not going to be a particularly funny stream today. The jokes are probably going to be few and far between, if non-existent. That's who you're hearing right now. It appears he's it appears he's finished with his struggle. All right, there we go. So more on that later if we get to that point. Presumed hostile, you asked the correct question. How can it get worse? Well, what we're going to do today is we are going to look at the indictment itself, and we're going to look at the motion for detention. We read the affidavit in support of the motion for detention last time. This time we're going to read the motion for detention. That's a little bad. And then we're going to read the internal affairs report. We're going to read every word of that over the next couple of days. It's 60 some odd, I think it's 64 pages long, and it gets much, much worse than we've covered so far. So that's why if you look down at the bottom of the name here, we've got legal vices, and I just have this posted here, all the trigger warnings, because like I said, I don't normally do trigger warnings, but this is a very, very trigger warning worthy show. Let's do the housekeeping stuff here real quick. Then we'll get into the main subject. And if it seems like I'm kind of off my game again, because I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to have to do this. I don't enjoy it, but this is a very, very serious case that does need to be brought out to light. So that's why we're covering, not because I want to, because I have to. We have our like and subscribe poll up today. Again, it's another cop-out poll. The like and subscribe poll is just to remind you to hit the like and subscribe. We've got 222 people here right now, 132 likes, 100 of you, 90 of you haven't done your job. So get down there, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. If you are subscribed, just double check to make sure you're still subscribed. Do the YouTube-y stuff, and then take our like and subscribe poll. The like and subscribe poll again today is it's kind of a lame cop out. I said this case is just such a horror show that I don't even know what to do for a poll. So, okay, you liked it. Okay, you're subscribed. Yeah, both. And there are no other options. Just do it. There's no, well, what if I don't want to do either? No, that's not an option. Do them both and click the appropriate box. We'll check back in a while, see how that's going. I played a bit of a flash from the F at Friday stream intro, but because I need an adult beverage for this, something to calm the nerves. So today we're having High West bottled in bond double. This is the straight rye. This is the straight rye High West bottled in bond. My old hometown whiskey there from Park City, Utah. I Can't Remember has gifted one Legal Vices membership. If you got that Legal Vices membership, which is Let's Talk Megan's Hair. Let's Talk Megan's Hair got the gifted membership. Give I Can't Remember super special thanks. And putting us on our way to releasing the emotional support potato pig dog cam, which we will definitely need today, is I see this. I know how to pronounce this, but I have to double check. I have to do a double dig every time here. Reque de la. It just makes me stop and do a double take. Yoda wanted a donation. Well, Yoda's got a donation. Enough to calm him down. Got nothing else. I've avoided it long enough. 10 minutes in. Let's do the palate cleansing swipe to put to rest the intro, the fellowshipping and philosophizing, and just get straight on with the program, shall we? The intermission. Take a deep breath, grab yourself a drink, pour yourself some popcorn. I know it's early for most of you, but just trust me, do it anyway. We're gonna need it where we're going today. Intermission time.
This is a brief intermission.
You're very much appreciated for saying that I'm appreciated. I appreciate that.
This is a brief intermission.
Let's do it. Very, very much. All right, I'm ready to go. Have a search and or seizure. More likely the seizure. I'm situated. I appreciate you.
This is a brief
Deep breaths,
intermission.
everybody. I appreciate you. Inhale, exhale. and let's go. All right, today we are going to look deeper into the case of Matthew Farwell's murder charges as it relates to the death of Sandra Birchmore. For those of you that aren't familiar with the case, I'm warning you, if you have any trigger warnings at all, today is there. I'm just giving a blanket trigger warning to anybody that's triggered by anything. The basic facts, because we're going to talk a lot about them today and tomorrow and possibly into the next day. The basic facts of this are he was a police officer in Stoughton, Massachusetts. He allegedly groomed a young lady, Sandra Birchmore, from the time she was 12 years old. They began having intercourse when she was 15 and he was 27, I believe. And they continued for almost a decade. During that time, he got married to a woman, had 3 kids, had 2 kids, and was pregnant with the 3rd child. She wanted his baby. She got pregnant. He didn't want her or the baby. And allegedly, he murdered her. He killed her. And then staged the crime scene. The police officer committed the act allegedly, and then the police officer staged the crime scene to make it look like she had hung herself with a duffel bag strap in the closet. And for those of you that don't know anything about the case but have been following the Karen Reed case, guess where this particular incident happened? If you guessed, although he was a Stoughton police officer, she lived in Canton, Massachusetts. This incident took place in Canton, Massachusetts. The first officer on scene was an officer by the name of Lank, who featured prominently in the Karen Reed trial. The officer who showed up on the second day of the investigation at the crime scene was an officer by the name of Kevin Albert. We definitely heard his name involved in the Karen Reed trial. Well, you remember the guy, Garano, I believe his name was, the police officer in the Karen Reed trial that was trying to download the data from Karen Reed's phone and, had all the problems and, well, he was also the guy that did the data analysis for the police in this Sandra Birchmore case. And likewise, he failed to find any text messages. He couldn't find any evidence of any text messages between Matthew Farwell and Sandra Birchmore. Well, the FBI got involved in this case. They got the phones and they found where the Canton police or the Massachusetts State Police, where they found no text messages between these two. The FBI managed to find 32,000 text messages between the two. So yeah, a lot of the people involved in the Karen Reed murder investigation were also involved in the investigation of the murder of Sarah Birchmore, to the point where it was even a police officer in the, did I say Sandra Birchmore, where it was even a police officer that was involved in the Sandra Birchmore case, involved in the cover-up. So that's our starting point for today. So let's take a look at the actual indictment. What has he been charged with? This is a federal indictment. And the charges are quite interesting. Let me share the screen here. There we go. And we don't want to embiggen that screen. We want to embiggen this screen. There we go. And make this a little bit smaller so I can read it. This is internal dialogue here. All right. Wow. Buckle up, people. Dang, my head's not sitting straight on my head, and it's annoying the heck out of me. All right, that's it. I'm just coping here. I'm just delaying. Let's knock it off and get in. Fartbox here, what her name says, Proctor was part of the investigation of the Sandra Birchmore case. That apparently is not true. Apparently he was not involved in it. But we'll talk about that later. From what I understand, because I read through here, not mentioned, and from what I've read online, it seems to say he was not involved, but everybody else is apparently. So let's read the indictment. General allegations. And by this is not Massachusetts v. anybody. This is the United States of America v. Matthew Farwell, defendant. Indictment. At all times relevant to this indictment, between on or about March 27, 2012, and on or about April 1, 2022, defendant Matthew Farwell, here Farwell, was a sworn officer of the Stoughton Police Department in Stoughton, Massachusetts. In his capacity as a Stoughton police officer, Farwell also served as an instructor for the Stoughton Police Explorers Academy, hereinafter the Police Explorers. And for those of you that don't know, the Explorers was kind of a program for, it was like the alternative to like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. It was, you know, people, young people would work with people in that were interested in certain fields, you know, whether it was like police or firemen or, you know, civil air patrol kind of thing. They would work with the youth in that particular field, sort of give them some hands-on experience and do a mentorship program. So he was an instructor for the Stoughton Police Explorers Academy, hereinafter Police Explorers, which was a vocational education program for local youth. The Police Explorers was designed to enable youth participants to learn about law enforcement careers. Sandra Birchmore was born on May 1997. On or around March 2010, again, 12 years old, Sandra Birchmore applied to be a participant in the Police Explorers. At that time, Birchmore was 12 years old. She began participating in the program in or around the spring of 2010 and remained in the program through in or around 2016. Well, prior to or in or around 2012, Farwell was a police officer. Well, was a Police Explorers volunteer. He became an instructor when he started working for the Stoughton Police Department in 2012. Before Birchmore attained the age of 16 years old, Farwell engaged in sexual intercourse and other sex acts with Birchmore. Farwell's sexual contact with Birchmore continued until in or around early 2021. So from 2012 to 2021, basically, you know, almost 10 years, 9 years. The Stoughton Police Department required employees, including police officers, to accurately report their time and attendance in order to receive wages and overtime. So now we're starting to get into the federal jurisdiction. Why are the feds covering a murder trial? Why are the feds bringing a murder indictment, which should be handled by the local police? Well, it has to do with time. It has to do with time. The police officers are required to report their time and attendance in order to receive wages and overtime. During some of the shifts when Farwell was supposed to be performing his duties as a Stoughton police officer, he was instead engaged in sex acts with Birchmore. He failed to disclose that information to the Stoughton Police Department, and he took steps to conceal his conduct from other department employees. Keep that time in your mind. It's going to come back. In or around December 2020, Birchmore learned that she was pregnant. Birchmore told Farwell that he was the father of her child. On or about January 20th, 2021, Birchmore's friend called the Stoughton Police Department and told the police department employees that Farwell had been having sex with Birchmore. Shortly thereafter, so the jig is kind of up. The jig is kind of up. Her friend ratted him out to his department, and then things rapidly went downhill.
On or about February 1, 2021, Farwell killed Birchmore by strangulation. Shortly thereafter, Farwell staged Birchmore's Canton, Massachusetts apartment to make it appear as if Birchmore had committed self-deletion. The grand jury considered this, and the grand jury came back with their indictments. Count 1, killing a witness or a victim. Here's the federal charges now, mind you. The grand jury realleges and incorporates by reference the allegations in paragraphs 1 through 8 of this affidavit. That means just everything we said above should be as if it was said here, so we don't have to repeat ourselves. On or about February 1, 2021, in Canton, in the District of Massachusetts, the defendant, Matthew Farwell, did kill Sandra Birchmore, a person known to the grand jury with malice aforethought. That's the magic words for first-degree murder. That's the intentional murder. Those are the magic words, with malice aforethought. Willfully, deliberately, maliciously, and with premeditation. More magic words. And with the intent to prevent the communication. This is why the feds are involved. And with the intent to prevent the communication by a person to a law enforcement officer of information relating to the commission or possible commission of a federal offense. Okay, so for killing a potential witness to a federal offense. What's the federal offense, you may ask? Well, to wit, commission or possible commission of the federal offenses of deprivation of rights under color of law, so that's him violating someone's right under the authority of him acting as a police officer, coercion and enticement in violation of this statute, and wire fraud. Keep your eyes on wire fraud. So, charged with killing a witness or potential witness to wire fraud, amongst other things. That's the end of the actual indictment itself. So, deprivation of rights under color of law, coercion and enticement, and wire fraud. Now, the wire fraud, just a little bit of a preview here, stems from the fact that he was still... He committed a lot of these sex acts. They had intercourse many times while he was on the clock. While he was on the clock in his role as a policeman, he would just meet her places, such romantic places as a Costco parking lot, a Five Guys hamburger parking lot, places like that. They would have intercourse, and he didn't clock out. So how does he get paid? He gets paid by a direct deposit that goes through banks. That goes through banks in different states. So he has committed wire fraud because he is receiving his pay that he didn't earn. Pay that he should not have had because he should not have been on the clock when he was doing non-police activities such as engaging in intercourse. He lied on his timesheet. He was getting paid money that he did not deserve and should not have had. It gets routed through banks, ends up in his account. Boom, federal wire fraud. And she knew that they were having the intercourse while he was on the clock. So she was a witness to a federal crime. So that's one of the ways that the feds get jurisdiction in this, because he allegedly murdered a witness or potential witness to his commission of federal wire fraud. Well, they don't want him out. They do not want him out in public. They want him behind bars pending this trial. They don't want him to go anywhere. So they need to file this motion for detention, which is what we're going to look at next. It's lengthy. It's 18 pages long, but it opens the door to the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is the internal affairs report. That is a kicker. Well, let me shut that down and bring up Why is that down there? Just scroll back up to the top. There you go. Let's see. It is scary how much corruption. You're absolutely correct. And these are some of the same officers we saw in the Karen Reed trial. And that's essentially how everybody's like, well, how did the FBI become involved in the Karen Reed trial? They kind of stumbled onto it as a result of their investigation into this case, is my understanding. The feds were investigating this, and those few officers that we mentioned earlier, and we're going to be mentioning again in the Internal Affairs report, those few officers were sort of part of this investigation. So apparently, because of that connection, they stumbled into the Karen Reed trial. I don't know why I brought that. Oh, that's for there's hurricane warnings for people. Anybody, if you're under the hurricane warnings, just make sure you take precautions. Be safe. I think that's pretty much all we've got here before we get into the 18-page indictment. And hey, to people over there on Rumble, I see ya. I didn't see you yesterday because it just didn't start. All right, let's begin. Settle in. We need to embiggen this here so we can read it well. Is that too big? Can we go one bigger? Oh, we can't. We can go one bigger. And right. Just checking here. Five Guys has some classy lots. United States versus Matthew Farwell. United States motion for and memorandum in support of pretrial detention. We read the memorandum last time. That was the horrifying document that we read. Now we're going to read another smaller but equally horrifying document and then get into the really, really, really bad one. Now, to the two main things, I guess you could call the two main things that they need to show to have pretrial detention. We'll pick them out as they come through here. Defendant Matthew Farwell, a former Stoughton police officer, has been charged with killing Sandra Birchmore to prevent her from communicating information about his commission or possible commission of federal crimes. The government moves to detain Farwell pending trial because 1, he is a danger to the community, and 2, he poses a serious risk of flight and obstruction. Those are the two things they need to set out in this motion to keep him locked up before trial. That he's a danger to the community and that he's a flight risk. The court is authorized to conduct a detention hearing and detain Farwell on each of these independent bases because Farwell has been charged with a crime of violence that carries a mandatory life sentence. Those are his options. He gets 0 or everything. Those are the only two ways this case can. Well, that's one of 3 ways this case can turn out. 1, 0, he walks free. 2, life in prison without the possibility of parole. Or 3, the federal death penalty. But the federal death penalty is so infrequently used. I don't think they would be going for the death penalty in this case. Although I think they should. I think this is a good justification. This case was made for death penalty cases. If he's guilty of half, a third, a quarter of what he's charged with, of the things that are alleged against him, great example of a case that would warrant the death penalty. And I think just kind of reviving him and doing it again, and reviving him and doing it again repeatedly for the rest of his life. That's ick. All right. First, there is a serious risk that if released, the defendant will obstruct or attempt to obstruct justice. This is not merely theoretical. Yeah, being accused of staging a crime scene, that would not help your argument that you were not going to attempt to obstruct justice. On February 1, 2021, Farwell killed Birchmore, a young pregnant woman with whom he had spent years sexually exploiting. Farwell's grisly crime was designed to conceal forever the truth about his years of criminal conduct targeting Birchmore. Moreover, Even apart from his murder of Birchmore, Farwell tried to destroy and conceal evidence of his criminal conduct. Prior to his death, Farwell instructed Birchmore to delete from her phones evidence that he had sexual intercourse with her before her 16th birthday. After the murder, he researched how to delete data from his own phone, and he took steps to conceal the murder, including by repositioning Birchmore's lifeless body and staging her apartment to make the young woman's death appear to be a suicide, and lying to Massachusetts state police detectives who were initially responsible for investigating Birchmore's death. Second, as if number one wasn't bad enough. Second, Farwell's release would pose a profound danger to the community. He's been charged with the intentional, premeditated murder of a young person he knew for years. He strangled her to death when he knew she was several weeks pregnant. He did so while he was serving as a police officer, and after using that position of trust and authority to groom and sexually exploit her for years, beginning when she was just 15 years old. There are no conditions of release that will protect the community from a defendant whose conduct reveals such an indifference to human life. Gotta say, that's a pretty compelling argument. Third, Farwell is a serious risk of non-appearance. As described below, in detail below, the murder followed a report to Stoughton police that disclosed aspects of Farwell's illicit sexual relationship with Birchmore. With Farwell on notice that he could soon face consequences for his criminal conduct, he decided to kill Birchmore. Today, the potential consequences could hardly be more severe or imminent. Farwell faces mandatory life sentence for killing Birchmore. The weight of the evidence is overwhelming. These circumstances provide him with a significant disincentive to appear for trial. A significant disincentive to appear for trial. As such, there are no conditions that will reasonably assure he will appear at trial to face the evidence and consequences of his conduct. All right, this is the statement of fact is where we wade into the deep end. So this is your chance while I'm cleaning off my glasses to piece out if anything that we've just gone over sounds like it might be triggering to you, because we're getting into details of such things now. Right. So we got 457 of you here. Thank you for being here, people. I appreciate it. And do some YouTubey things like subscribe and all that while we do this, because final warning, we're going in. All right, people, you have been duly warned. I apologize for what we're going to be talking about next. It's grim. And as some of you are saying, yes, many more cops probably involved in grooming and graping young ones. The pop culture allows it. Cover-ups all over the place. And again, people are saying, why do we see more of this now? Why is this happening more and more? I doubt it's happening more and more. It's probably happening less and less, but the reason, for the same reason that we know about it, is because we have the internet. We have these trials, televised trials. We have instant news. We have these reports. Society is much more open about reporting these things and showing news and trials relating to it. We're seeing it more because we have more access to it. And I think that more access to it might actually be reducing the numbers. So what we're seeing now may just, it clearly is just the tip of the iceberg. But it's so disgusting and frustrating. Statement of facts. The Sock Snatcher says, thank you for covering this, Jeff. I know it's a rough case, but it's so important. Yeah, this is not my nature. My nature is to be good-natured and witty and make at least a decent attempt at humor, but there ain't none of that in this case. This Poisonous Paradox says it made Ian Runkle choke up. I did a bit there last time too when we went through the affidavit. The internal affairs report that we're going to read is just enraging. But here we go with the statement of facts. The government proffers the following facts in support of its motion to detain defendant and submits the supporting declaration of FBI Special Agent Chenny Castruita, which we read. The defendant, Farwell, is 38 years old and resides in Northeastern Massachusetts. Is that Northeastern or Northeastern? Hey, look, humor. Sorry, Massachusetts, with his spouse and children. That poor woman. I can't even imagine what his wife is thinking and going through. Both he and his spouse possess licenses to carry firearms. There are 10 firearms registered to their home address. Footnote 1. Okay, we'll read footnote 1 and 2 together. The defendant's professional background. Farwell served in the United States Army from 2004 to 2008. During that time, he served as an explosives expert. So the government proffers this information. Okay, this is just saying, hey, we're telling you about this now. If you need evidence later, we'll give it to you. But just for now, we're letting you know that this is here. So he was an explosives expert in the Army. Farwell became a sworn police officer in 2008. He first served from 2008 to 2012 as a police officer in the town of Wellesley, Massachusetts. On March 27th, 2012, Farwell became a Stoughton police officer, a position he held until he resigned on April 1, 2022. He resigned. Wasn't fired, he was resigned. While a member of the Stoughton Police Department, Farwell also served as a firearms and explosives instructor. Example at paragraph 12. Prior to 2017, the Stoughton Police Department operated the Stoughton Police Explorers Academy, hereafter the Police Explorers, a quasi-military paramilitary program. Wow, I have never heard the Explorers described as a quasi-paramilitary program. Wow. It's a bit, makes them sound like an extremist group, doesn't it? A quasi-paramilitary program of 12 to 14-year-olds roaming around. Designed to expose youth participants to various aspects of policing. Farwell was a volunteer for the program when he was a Wellesley police officer. After he joined the Stoughton Police Department, Farwell became a police explorers instructor. In March 2010, Birchmore applied to be a participant in the Police Explorers. At the time, she was 12 years old. That number just makes my blood boil. She began participating in the program in or around the spring of 2010. She remained in the program through 2016. Farwell was her instructor during that time period. The offense. Farwell groomed and sexually exploited Birchmore when she was a child. That headline alone. As a police officer, Farwell groomed and sexually exploited Birchmore when she was a child. As early as 2012, he began communicating with Birchmore online, including befriending her on Facebook. At the time, she was 26 years old. He was 26 years old. She was just 15. While using the internet to lay the groundwork for his child sexual exploitation, Farwell would also meet Birchmore at the Stoughton Public Library, where he would sexually groom her under the guise of providing academic tutoring. Ultimately, he engaged in sex acts with Birchmore, violating the Massachusetts statutory rape laws by having sexual intercourse with her in 2013 when she was 15. The act of statutory rape had several attendant aggravating factors, such as the age disparity between Farwell and Birchmore, Farwell's position of power and trust. Let's take a little bit of a breather here. Cherry Reed has broken the tension a little bit here. You get a foghorn for the $50 super chat. As difficult as this is to cover, I thank you, because without people like you, this would not be worldwide bringing this spotlight. We need support pups on this one. Yeah, they're both here. You can probably hear them hyperventilating in the background. We need the emotional support potato pig dogs. And as Anima Rumper says we need the wood chipper. We need the wood chipper for this one. But again, thank you so very, very much, Cherry Reed, for the very, very generous super chat. That is deeply, deeply appreciated. Back at it, shall we? Farwell continued to exploit Birchmore when she became an adult. Farwell continued having sex with Birchmore after she became an adult and while he remained employed as a police officer. Now, see, this is the thing. People will, well, she's an adult. How can he be grooming her and exploiting her as an adult? You have to remember this guy has essentially been grooming her since she was possibly since she was 12 years old. There's a lot of brainwashing going on there. Allegedly. Building off years of grooming, Farwell later cultivated a controlling and sometimes abusive relationship with Birchmore. He tracked her location with his cell phone, and as voluminous text messages demonstrate, he engaged in sexual violence. Farwell had sex with Birchmore while on duty. Again, this is one of the underpinnings of the Fed's murder case. Farwell exploited Birchmore while he on duty as a police officer. At times, he met Birchmore to have sex and with her while he was on duty and being paid by the town of Stoughton. Of course, these are facts that Farwell concealed from the Stoughton Police Department in an effort to continue receiving his salary, notwithstanding his misconduct. In December 2020, Farwell learned that he had impregnated Birchmore. In October 2020, Birchmore told Farwell that she wanted a child of her own. Farwell and Birchmore reached an agreement. He would try to impregnate Birchmore in exchange for her silence about his criminal conduct, i.e. child SA, and years-long extramarital affair. In late December 2020, just a month before Birchmore died, she learned that she was pregnant. Birchmore and Farwell told Farwell that he was the child's father, and Farwell responded poorly. Well, shit, that's an understatement, isn't it? Yeah, Farwell responded poorly. Fucking understand. And by the way, monetization is totally off on this, so you know, that's we're not even going to try for monetization on anything to do with this case. We didn't monetize last one. And if we did, we definitely would not. Anyway, that's beside. But I'm not looking for ad revenue off this. Ugh. Yeah, Farwell. I can't believe this sentence. Farwell responded poorly. He became physically violent with Birchmore. She told multiple friends that Farwell had pushed and shoved her, grabbed objects from her hands, and put her in a chokehold. Island, you understood correctly. She said, hey, look, I know you've got this other family, but we have our little family here too. You know, we need to have our child, and yeah, basically they negotiated, and he eventually said, all right, I will impregnate you if you just keep it quiet and then don't tell anybody that, about our relationship. Yeah, you were exactly correct. She wanted a baby. He complied. They negotiated. You did not misunderstand. More on that below. In January 2021, Farwell learned that information about his years-long illicit sexual contact with Birchmore had been disclosed to the Stoughton Police Department and others. In January 2021, Farwell learned that despite Birchmore getting the pregnancy she wanted, he would not be able to control her or the information that she possessed about his crimes. On January 20, 2021, a friend of Birchmore's called the Stoughton Police Department and disclosed information about Farwell's sexual contact with Birchmore. When a Stoughton Police Department employee told him about the call, Farwell again responded poorly. He angrily demanded that the employee never tell anyone about the information. Yeah, so someone reports it, then he tells the receiving officer, hey, don't you say anything to anybody. In late January 2021, Farwell began planning the murder of Sandra Birchmore. By late January 2021, text messages between Farwell and Birchmore reveal that Farwell was enraged by what he perceived as Birchmore not upholding her end of the pregnancy for silence agreement. Moreover, he had learned that Birchmore had shared with at least one other person some of the incriminating details about his sexual relationship with Birchmore, and that information had been disclosed to his employer, a law enforcement agency. In a text on January 20th, 2021, he asked Birchmore, "What else do I have to worry about now? Which other friend will do something tomorrow?" An allusion to his fear that she may disclose more information about the possible commission of federal crimes, coercion and enticement, deprivation of rights under color of law, and wire fraud. On January 24th, I'm getting a bunch of texts. I'd say they're from work. No, they're not, so I can ignore them. Something about Rachel Ray. That's weird. All right, sorry. So he's afraid that she may disclose information about the coercion and enticement, the deprivation of rights under color of law, and wire fraud. On January 24, 2021, Farwell started to take important steps to obstruct justice by killing Birchmore. He asked Birchmore for a key to her apartment after previously being reluctant to having it in his possession, that kind of tangible proof of their relationship. And he asked Birchmore to keep it a secret that he had been given a key. On January 26, 2021, Farwell also started casing Birchmore's apartment, the future crime scene, searching for places to carry out the murder. He inspected her bathroom and closet, places where items could be hung. His behavior was strange enough that Birchmore told multiple friends that she was concerned. On February 1, 2021, Farwell went to Birchmore's apartment wearing a mask and strangled her to death using a duffel bag strap. On February 1, 2021, Farwell decided to act. For him, that day provided at least two advantages. A blizzard was approaching the greater Boston. Even snow is involved in this and the Karen Reed case. Snow and the same police officers. Blizzards are involved in both cases. How's that for a conspiracy? And Farwell's wife was hours away from delivering their third child. Therefore, Farwell texted Birchmore to tell her that he was coming to her apartment. He entered her apartment wearing a face mask, despite being well known as resistant to COVID-19 mask mandates. And he murdered Birchmore, a 23-year-old pregnant woman he had exploited and used for years, by strangling her to death. Within minutes of silencing Birchmore, video surveillance footage shows him leaving her apartment. Additional evidence regarding Farwell's efforts to obstruct. All right, now we're getting into some of the horrific text messages that we looked at last time. And again, if there's any silver lining in this, it's just that this isn't the worst we're going to hear. In addition to the obstruction crime alleged in this indictment, there is evidence that Farwell took steps to conceal his criminal conduct before Birchmore's death and later to obstruct the murder investigation. Farwell directed Birchmore to delete electronic evidence of his crimes. Before Farwell killed Birchmore, Farwell directed her to delete evidence of their sexual relationship. This was evidence that he raped Birchmore when she was 15 and that he had engaged in sexual violence. For example, in February 2019, Farwell exchanged text messages with Birchmore in which they discussed her virginity. And he acknowledged that it was a big thing to get to be the first, end quote. In March 2019, the defendant asked Birchmore, "What would you have done if we never used a condom and I never pulled out?" Birchmore reassured Farwell that she would have still finished school. A few months after that, on June 5, 2019, Farwell directed Birchmore to make sure all of their texts and Facebook messages had been deleted. In another text message conversation, Farwell discussed the first time he and Birchmore had sex. Farwell sent a text indicating that he would have liked to have sex with Birchmore when she was even younger. Now, remember, she was 15 when they did it. And he did send several text messages talking about how he would have loved it if they would have done it even younger. You should have told me we could have fucked so much sooner. After sending that text, Farwell quickly instructed Birchmore, clear that part out, baby. And when she confirmed that she did so, he texted, good girl. Farwell also wanted to ensure that Birchmore would delete text messages in which they discussed his violence. For example, on March 19th, 2019, the defendant sent Birchmore texts about his desire to use sexual violence to pretend to grape her. At the end of this conversation, Farwell sent her a text instructing her to clear out this text. In the weeks before Birchmore's murder. I have to read the headline here. Farwell tried to prevent a Stoughton Police Department employee from further disclosing information about his crimes and immediately confronted Birchmore for sharing incriminating information. In the weeks before Birchmore's murder, Farwell previewed some of the steps he would take to prevent witnesses from disclosing information of his crimes. On January 20th, 2021, Farwell reacted angrily when person 5, then an employee of the Stoughton Police Department, confronted him about a call he or she had received regarding his illicit sexual relationship with Birchmore. Farwell directed person 5 never to mention the topic to him again and not to tell anyone else. Farwell then began frantically texting with Birchmore. He wrote, "You also told me no one else knew about us yet. She claimed we're fucking. You have no idea how bad what he or she did is. I literally can't believe this is even real life. Like, what else do I have to worry about now? Which other friend will do something tomorrow?" Within days of the foregoing text messages, Farwell was asking Birchmore to give him a key to her apartment, but to keep it secret. Within days, he was scoping out her closets and bathrooms. And within 12 days, Birchmore was dead. After killing Birchmore, Farwell repositioned her body and staged her apartment to make it appear that Birchmore had committed suicide. After killing Birchmore, Farwell moved her lifeless body and staged her apartment to conceal his crime by making it appear that she died by suicide. As described in more detail in Exhibit A. That's the affidavit we read last time. Notwithstanding the fact that first responders found Birchmore in a seated position with a strap around her neck and a doorknob, Dr. William Smock determined that Birchmore's death was a homicide. Yes, the Massachusetts State Medical Examiner, the local medical examiner, determined it was a self-deletion. But the Fed said no. Our guy says no. And from the way they described the crime scene, any idiot, even a non-medical examiner, could have looked at the scene and said, aha, this is not an act of self-deletion. But yet somehow the medical examiner there in the local part of Massachusetts found and determined that it was a self-deletion act. Dr. William Smock determined that Birchmore's death was a homicide. Dr. Smock cited Birchmore's hyoid bone fracture, the pattern imprint injury on her chest, abrasions on her nose, and a broken necklace, among other evidence that led him to conclude that with a reasonable degree of medical and scientific certainty that Birchmore's death was a homicide. These specific injuries and evidence are consistent with Farwell suffocating Birchmore by strangulation and then hanging her lifeless body from her closet doorknob, which he had inspected days earlier to make it appear as if she took her own life. Lindsay says Garino needs to be the next one in the group going to jail too. Yeah, he's the one that says, no, I can't. I examined the phones. I can't find any evidence that there's any text messages ever between Birchmore and Farwell. Yet the FBI found 32,000 text messages. And I wish I was exaggerating that number. I'm not. After the murder, Farwell searched for ways to conceal his years-long relationship with Birchmore and his communication with her on the day of the murder. After Birchmore's death, Farwell gave limited consent to search his personal cell phone to law enforcement officers who were investigating the death. However, on February 9, 2021, Farwell used his work cell phone to make and delete 2 Google searches. See, this just shows you that even cops that nail people for doing stupid shit like Google searching terms like how long to die in the cold and stuff like that, just as a random example, even cops make stupid Google searches. First, he searched for and deleted, can delete messages be recovered by Cellbrite? Cellbrite is a tool that forensic examiners use to extract data from cell phones. Then he searched for and deleted, can you revoke consent in Massachusetts? Oops. After the murder, Farwell lied to Massachusetts state police detectives. When Farwell met with Massachusetts state police detectives who were investigating Birchmore's death, he lied to them. His multiple false statements reveal a deliberate effort to minimize his relationship with Birchmore and avoid consequences for his misconduct. Here are some of the lies he told. Farwell falsely told detectives that his sexual relationship with Birchmore began in 2020. According to his own text messages with Birchmore, it actually began in 2013 when Birchmore was 15. Farwell falsely told detectives that he only had sex with Birchmore 2 or 3 times in the previous year. According to text messages, he had sex with her at least 10 times in the 13 months prior to her death. Farwell falsely told detectives that the last time he had sex with Birchmore was in October 2020, attempting to avoid suspicion about whether he was the father of Birchmore's unborn child. However, text messages indicate that Farwell met Birchmore to have sex after that date. Farwell falsely told detectives that he had not seen Birchmore in the week before her death. However, he visited her apartment on January 29th, 2021. Farwell falsely told police detectives that he had been trying to distance himself from Birchmore. However, approximately 10 days before her death, he asked her for a key to her apartment and told her he would come over and give her hugs. About 3 days before her death, Farwell told her that he would engage in sexual activity with her. We're getting deeper into this. Now we're going to be starting to talk about the sexual violence and physical violence. So again, repeating the warnings. Yeah. Text message. Okay, Farwell has a long track record of using physical and sexual violence. Text messages show that the defendant physically abused Birchmore on at least 20 occasions in just this year before her death. Farwell sent Birchmore text messages stating that he would grab her throat, pin her down by her throat, squeeze her throat, choke her during sexual activity. For example, less than 4 months before her death, Farwell told Birchmore that during their next sexual encounter, he was going to grab her throat and say, "Shut the fuck up now or I won't pull out." In November 2020, Farwell told Birchmore, "Maybe I'll hold you down by your throat while I pound you." He then reflected on how tight he should squeeze, texting that he would like her to feel like, "Oh my God, this is really happening and I can't stop it." Farwell's penchant for violence is confirmed by Birchmore's disclosures to friends that the defendant assaulted her in the weeks before her death. Additionally, text messages between Farwell and Birchmore's own journal entries reveal Farwell's efforts to punish her with violent sex acts. This violent sexual punishment started as early as 2013 and continued until 2020. The evidence indicates that the defendant used violent sexual acts to punish Birchmore for getting bad grades, lying to him, or being sexually active with other people. yeah, those text messages about the bad grades and things, those were pretty damn rough. The evidence indicates that Farwell's efforts to control Birchmore also included directing her to use her phone to share her location with him and admonishing her when she failed to do so. Farwell also has a demonstrated preoccupation with SA in a number of ways. First, Farwell's texts with Birchmore include numerous discussions of him forcing her to engage in certain sex acts. Farwell asked Birchmore on multiple occasions to act as if he were graping her when they had sex. For example, in one text conversation on November 8th, 2020, Farwell told Birchmore that he enjoyed having sex with her. When Birchmore asked what would be perfect for him, he replied, "You say no and make me take it." Full R word. Additionally, Birchmore's journal details sexual violence that she suffered at the hands of Farwell as a means of punishment. Finally, Farwell's iCloud account contained images that confirm his interest in domestic and violence, including strangulation. For example, his iCloud contained the following: a meme containing a photo of a woman with tape over her mouth that states duct tape turning no, no, no into since 1942. Farbox here says no death penalty in Massachusetts, so he'll go away for life and get what's coming to him from other inmates. Again, this is a federal prosecution. There is a federal death penalty. He could, in theory, get the death penalty, but the federal death penalty is very, very seldomly used. But you know, he's going away for life. Also in his iCloud account, an image that states, "When she says, 'Choke me, daddy,' and you get carried away, and now she's dead." Yeah, that's pretty fucking funny, isn't it? A screenshot of an image of a woman saying that she could not sleep, followed by a man choking her and saying, "Good night, bitch." A meme glorifying a person who kills and sexually abuses someone who no one will miss. Cherry Reed, again, being so amazingly generous and breaking up some of the tension here with you get another foghorn for this. You get a super special deluxe foghorn for this. Cherry Reed gifted 10 Legal Vices memberships. Thank you so much for that, Cherry. That is so super awesome of you. Jem, KLF, Megan McCarthy, Adriana, Carrie Ann, Dana loves Zumba, and Will Call Magic. Hey, brother, you got one. Pastor Flash, Kim Dodd, April M. You are all the recipients of the Legal Vices gifted memberships. Make sure you give Cherry Reed a super special thanks, and either 2 weekends from now or 3 weekends from now will be the September members only stream, so stand by for that. Thank you so much. And we've reached that part of the show here where finally we get to introduce our co-host of the day. Where's the co-host of the day introduction?
Release the hose.
We have Strawberry, the emotional support potato pig dog here, sitting weirdly on the bed with her skin medication showing on her skin there, and under the table is Yoda, and Yoda's just being Yoda. All right, there we go. We'll keep this on Strawberry for whatever reason. Thank you so much, people. Well, there's no more super chats to read, so we'll get back into the story. But we have our emotional support potato pig dog here, one of the two anyway. All right, and I'll have to do the math. Math. Yeah, all right. We're kind of on our way to the second achievement, the revenge, the revenge of the drink. All right, here we are. Let's continue, shall we? Turn the camera a little bit there. Farwell has demonstrated sexual interest in children. Farwell is a danger to children. He committed statutory rape under Massachusetts law by having sex with Birchmore when she was 15. In text messages with Birchmore, he romanticizes the statutory rape by discussing the first time they knew they were going to have sex and his regret that they did not have sex earlier in 2012. And Farwell repeatedly disclosed to Birchmore his interest in having sex with children. Via text message, Farwell asked Birchmore to pretend that she was 13 or 14 years old when they were having sex. He also had Birchmore join his sexual role play, in which he posed as her older brother and simulated non-consensual incest. Yeah. Right. I just had to do a quick little 10 count there. Farwell is a firearms and explosives expert with access to many guns. Farwell has extensive training regarding firearms and explosives, having served in the Army and as an instructor in the Stoughton Police Department. He has a license to carry a gun with 10 guns registered to his residence. The Bail Reform Act, 18 U.S.C. 3142, authorizes the court to detain Farwell on 3 independent bases: danger to the community and risk of flight and obstruction. Congress empowered judicial officers to release or detain defendants pending trial. They're governed the pretrial detention, other stuff. The court holds a detention hearing, and upon the government's motion in a case that involves a crime of violence and one that involves an offense for which the maximum sentence is life in prison or death, here the charged defense killing a victim or witness satisfies both criteria, defining crime of violence as an offense that has an element of the offense: the use, attempted use, or threatened use of physical force against the person or property of another. The punishment for an offense under this subsection is A, in the case of a killing, the punishment provided in section 1111 and 1112 and 1111B, stating that the penalty for first-degree murder is death or mandatory life imprisonment. So those are his options. He walks a free man with a not guilty verdict. He goes to prison for the rest of his life, or they pull out the exceptionally used federal death penalty. I'm going to do a quick little search to see who the last federal death penalty person. I think it was McVeigh that did the Oklahoma City bombing. Who was the last federal death penalty? It was Timothy McVeigh. Hey, I'm smart. And he was executed on June 11th, 2001. So the federal death penalty has not been carried out since June 11th, 2001, when Timothy McVeigh, who was responsible for the Oklahoma City federal building bombing in 1995, was put to death. Damn, I remember that. I remember that morning so clearly. I turned on the news before going to school and saw this happening. I'm like, holy crap. And I got about halfway to the school and someone had called in a bomb threat to the university. So all the school was locked down and canceled that day. All right. Anyway, so that's not here. So it's possible, but it's very unlikely that the federal death penalty will come into play here. But I think that it definitely should. Right. Under section 3142F1, the court must determine whether the defendant is a danger to the community or risk of flight. Reasonable assurance the appearance of such person is required in the safety of other person in the community. And pursuant to this statute, the court must hold a detention hearing upon the government's motion or sua sponte. That's by the judge's own authority. So the judge can either do it on a government motion or on his or her own judicial authority. When the case involves a serious risk that the defendant will flee or a serious risk that the defendant will obstruct or attempt to obstruct justice. The government must prove the defendant is a danger to the community by clear and convincing evidence. The court applies a preponderance of the evidence standard in determining whether the defendant is a flight risk or obstruction. So it's just a more than 50%. But for the clear and convincing is a little bit high. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's not just by the most of the evidence shows thing. So put it around 60-70% for the danger to the community standard. Moreover, the danger to the community and risk of flight, obstruction of justice is a standalone basis for detention pending trial. Where the court finds that a defendant's release creates an unusual risk of obstruction of justice, the Constitution and relevant statutes permit detention. There's a case here, Gotti, United States v. Gotti. That would be John Gotti, mob boss. Upholding detention after the district court found that the defendant tampered with a witness in a state proceeding and stating all bail decisions rest upon predictions of a defendant's future behavior. It would be anomalous to hold that such predictions cannot rest on defendant's recent conduct. Gee, thanks, Hayden. Hey guys, how about we not do that? What do you think? Okay, yeah. Okay, Hayden made me laugh with his private text. I'm worried about John Gotti. You guys are worrying about my dog's butt. All right. Break it up, you two. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. All right. It would be anomalous to hold that such predictions cannot rest on a defendant's recent conduct in another proceeding, which may shed considerable light on his motive, capacity, and propensity to commit certain acts if free on bail. Importantly, the extension of inherent powers to deny bail during the trial to the pre-trial period recognizes that unless the witnesses are protected before trial, they and their testimony will not be available at trial. Is you don't want your witnesses to be deleted. In evaluating whether conditions can reasonably be fashioned to eliminate the risk of danger, flight, or obstruction associated with releasing the defendant, the court must consider 1, the nature of the circumstances of the offense, the weight of the evidence, the defendant's history and personal characteristics, and 4, the dangerousness. The court should detain Farwell pending trial. Absolutely agree with them. Farwell killed a young person to cover up his own crimes, and he committed while he was employed as a police officer. That chilling act of obstruction of justice follows his previous attempts to destroy evidence. In addition, Farwell is violent. He used that violence both to harm his victim while she was alive and to obstruct justice by killing her. In the end, his conduct was all designed to avoid accountability for his underlying crimes, which should also give the court grave concerns about whether he will appear at future proceedings. On this record, there are no conditions that can reasonably assure the court that Farwell will not harm others, obstruct justice, or flee to avoid the consequences of this case. Accordingly, the court should detain him pending trial. Farwell is a danger to the community. As a threshold matter, a murder charge weighs substantially in favor of finding of future dangerousness. There's a court case here decided that affirms the decision not to reopen a detention hearing for a defendant who is charged with murder for hire. Murder, by its nature, involves violence and bespeaks dangers to others. Here, the defendant took another person's life. That singular act demonstrates the risk that his release poses to the entire community. But there's more to it. The evidence set forth in detail in Exhibit A, that's the affidavit we read last time, describes the manner in which Farwell committed the murder. He got a key to Birchmore's apartment. He inspected the apartment to find an ideal place to commit the crime. He showed up during a snowstorm when he knew he would have hours or days before Birchmore would be missed at work. He arrived wearing a mask to disguise his appearance. He quickly strangled Birchmore, choking off her air supply until she perished. He moved her body and tied a duffel bag strap to the closet doorknob to make it look like Birchmore had done this to herself. And he quickly left her apartment. The crime required planning and a unique willingness to take risks to cause irreversible harm. Release conditions cannot safeguard the community against a defendant who has displayed this type of commitment to harming others. Second, Farwell killed Birchmore after engaging in domestic violence. The Second Circuit has acknowledged a willingness to strike loved ones offers probative evidence of a tendency to violence and dangerous towards others. There's a case here, the United States v. Mercedes, reversing the district court's pretrial release order as to 3 defendants and citing to one of the defendants' history of domestic violence, even without any criminal record, as contributing to a finding that the defendant was dangerous. In fact, a study found a single episode of strangulation was associated with a 750% increase in the risk of becoming a victim of a completed domestic homicide in all ethnic groups. Non-fatal strangulation is an important risk factor for homicide of women. Here, not only did Farwell choke Birchmore during sex on several occasions, but in the weeks prior to her death, she reported to friends that he assaulted her when they were discussing her pregnancy. Farwell's interest in and glorifying of violence towards women was clearly displayed in the images agents recovered from his iCloud account. Third, the court should have heightened concerns about the danger Farwell presents because of his extensive experience with weapons and the 10 firearms that are registered at his home. Farwell had firearms training in the military and during his law enforcement career, plus he had sufficient expertise to serve as a firearms instructor for other law enforcement officers. Fourth, Farwell is a danger to children. Unlike many exploitation cases in which there is no evidence of hands-on sexual contact with children, here Farwell enticed and sexually abused Birchmore when she was 15 years old. Here's the United States McCarthy in a child P case with some evidence of production, denying motion for release, holding that the defendant would pose a danger to the community in part because he had an obvious prurient sexual interest in children and acted upon those interests on multiple occasions. Indeed, he wrote in a text stating that he wished he had sex with her even earlier. Moreover, text messages show that Farwell maintained his sexual interest in children for years. He wanted Birchmore to pretend to be 13 or 14 years old when they had sex. And he initiated child, I don't even want to put these 3 words together, child sex incest role-playing that further confirms that he remains a danger to children, just as he was when he began grooming Birchmore more than a decade ago. And Farwell remains a risk of obstruction. Adriana says, Predator, just wait for a few minutes until we start reading that internal affairs document. That is an unmitigated horror show. Farwell remains a risk of obstruction. For the last 3 years, Farwell may have believed that he had gotten away with killing Birchmore. Now that he has been charged and some of the evidence has been revealed, circumstances have changed. He now knows that if convicted, he faces a mandatory life sentence. See, this annoys the hell out of me that he ran around for 3 years, a free man. He knows that if convicted, he faces a mandatory life sentence. The new circumstances provide a great incentive for him to further obstruct justice. The court is in a unique position of having a wealth of information about what this defendant has done in the past when he believed there was a risk of criminal consequences. When Farwell feared that Birchmore might reveal information about his commission or possible commission of federal crimes, he killed her. When a Stoughton police employee told him that he or she had received a call reporting aspects of Farwell's illicit sexual relationship with Birchmore, Farwell sprung into action, directing that employee not to talk about the information and frantically admonishing Birchmore for revealing information. Throughout the final year or two of Birchmore's life, Farwell directed her to delete communications that could incriminate him. When state police detectives interviewed Farwell, he lied to them. Farwell's track record, which includes violence, intimidation, and dishonesty, strongly indicates that if released, he will continue to try to save himself by obstructing justice before trial. That could put many civilian witnesses at risk. Ultimately, release would pose a tremendous risk to the fundamental integrity of these proceedings. And he's a flight risk. The defendant is also a flight risk. The grave consequences of a mandatory life sentence that will result from a conviction provide strong incentive to flee. In a murder for hire case, the mandatory sentence of life in prison creates an extraordinarily risk of flight. Citing specifically to that defendant's age of 34 years old. The other case, U.S. v. Pierce, affirming magistrate judge's detention order because defendant charged with narcotics trafficking and witness tampering has an extremely strong incentive to flee upon the length of based upon the length of the prison sentence he faces under the charges pending against him and the likelihood of conviction. Farwell also presents a risk of self-harm, given the nature of the charge, the corresponding mandatory life sentence, and his access to and experience with firearms. Courts have held the defendant's risk of self-harm is an appropriate part of the court's assessment of whether the defendant is a risk of non-appearance. Yeah, don't let this mother effer off himself. No. Keep that, whatever it takes. You keep this dude alive, feds. You keep this mofo alive. Put his ass in the docket. Put him there in the defendant's seat. Keep him alive. Do not let him take the cheap, coward, easy way out of this. Absolutely keep this man alive. United States v. Workman, holding the court was within its discretion to consider ideation and previous attempts in determining whether it could possibly reasonably assure the defendant's appearance, but emphasizing that it might have viewed the question differently if the district court considered only ideation. And the conclusion by Joshua Levy, acting United States Attorney for the District of Massachusetts. Based upon the foregoing, the government has met its burden to show that no conditions of release will reasonably assure the defendant's appearance, the safety of any person or the community, or the integrity of this proceeding. Accordingly, the government requests that the court order the defendant detained pending trial. The government further requests that if the court is inclined to release the defendant on conditions, it stay its order for such time to permit the government to file a motion for revocation of the order of release under 18 U.S.C. 3145A. And it was served. That is the end of the indictment and the affidavit. The indictment and the motion for detention. We read the affidavit last time. Now we are going to go to Stoughton. We're going to go to Stoughton, Massachusetts, and we're going to look at a couple of statements by the Stoughton police chief, and then we will dive into the internal affairs report. Oh yeah, he needs to face what he did. No, they have got to do whatever it takes to keep him alive. That's it. Don't let anybody get to him. Don't let him get to himself. Hold him accountable. Calico 26 with the $2 super chat. Thank you so very much. Just keeping the super chats coming in. Lisa Montgomery was federally executed in 2021. Wow. Google doesn't seem to know about her. Was she the truck stop woman? Lisa Montgomery. She was the one that was like the hooker of the truck stop that was picking up everybody. Oh no, that wasn't her. She strangled a woman to death and cut her oh God. Her 8-month unborn from her yeesh. Okay, she was executed by lethal injection at the Federal Correction Complex in Terre Haute, Indiana. All right, so there you go. Google, you lied to me. You lied to me, Google. Huh. Interestingly enough, she was also the only female inmate on federal death row in the United States. Hey. Cool. Thank you so much for the correction there, Calico. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate that. Ugh. Wasn't that Warnos you're thinking of? I can't remember. I thought that was her name, but clearly it wasn't. This woman was horrible too. Right. Well, thank you for that little bit of a breather there, Calico, with the super chat coming in. We've got about 35 more minutes, and I just kind of do a little bit of a palate cleanser before we get into the internal affairs report. We've currently got 544 people here watching. Hello, 544 people. And we've got 457 likes. Let's get that up to 500 likes here in the next 30 seconds. We're taking a 30-second to 1 minute breather just to, breathe deep. Man. Okay. Yeah. Slidey Pie is saying that was Warnos. All right. Warnos is the one I was thinking of, not the one that it was there. All right, as I said, we got 530 people here now and 461 likes. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Just do the YouTubey stuff. We usually have fun with the grift, but not today. Just do it. Hit the subscribe button. We're going to follow this case as developments happen. We've got Sarah Boone coming up in a few weeks. Next week and probably the week after that, we're going to be doing. It's going to be a maritime week and possibly a maritime 2 weeks because the U.S. Coast Guard is going to be holding live hearings on the implosion of the Titan submersible. We'll be watching those hearings here. So it's probably your only chance to ever see a Coast Guard investigation into a maritime accident as it happens. So there we go. That'll be for the next couple of weeks. We're probably going to do this for the next day or two and lighten it up towards the end of the week. Our like and subscribe poll today does not exist. It's just a little thing that says this case is such a horror show that I don't even know what to do for a poll. 20% of you said, okay, I liked. 4% said, okay, I subscribed. Really? 4% of 440? That's okay. We should have a few subscribers. 46% said you've done both, and 30% say there are no other options. Just do it. That's our like and subscribe poll there for the day. Manders13 says, I'm so looking forward to it. Never seen a maritime investigation before. It sounds so interesting. It'll probably be dull and boring, but we'll make it fun. We'll make it fun. What is the purpose of the hearing? Just to make all the fun? No, they're conducting their investigation into it. They'll be having witnesses. They'll be taking testimony. They'll be doing all of that. It'll be just like the Coast Guard court. They've got to find out what happened. This isn't them releasing their their findings are a year or more away. This is actually just part of their investigation. So this is part of their hearings into what happened. It'll actually be pretty fascinating if you're into that sort of stuff. Yes, the Coast Guard does a lot of awesome and amazing stuff. Bless the Coast Guard. If you have any Coast Guard people, any Coasties here in chat, put up a 1, represent. Coast Guard does some amazing work. Super, super great people. All right. Let's get it. All right. The first thing you want to do is look at a couple of statements from the Stoughton police chief. A short one and a slightly longer one. Short one first. Alabama Rose Coast Guard. Megan McCarthy, Navy. Let's see here. Share screen. Is this the short one? This is the short one. All right, here we go. Oh, that's really small, isn't it? There we go. All right. Stoughton, the following is a statement. This is on August 28th, 2024. The following is a statement from Stoughton Police Chief Donna McNamara. The day after Sandra Birchmore was found dead in her Canton apartment, I ordered a lengthy and aggressive internal affairs investigation, the instructions of which made it clear that no stone should be left unturned. The Stoughton Police Department has supported other agencies and worked with other agencies, including the Federal Bureau of Investigation that today resulted in a murder indictment that concluded that Sandra was killed. The alleged murder of Sandra is a horrific injustice. The allegations against the suspect, a former Stoughton police officer, represent the single worst act of not just professional misconduct, but indeed human indecency that I have observed in a nearly 3-decade career in law enforcement. It has been my life's work over these past 3 years to ensure that justice was served. As I have stated previously, Sandra Birchmore received no justice during her life. It is imperative that justice be served in her death, and today's actions appear to bring our society one step closer to justice. That's the first statement I want to read. Flux, what does that make military Sea Lift Command? They're a supplement, aren't they? They're contract. Anyway, I'm not quite sure how the military Sea Lift Command fits in. There's actually an MSC pier just down the street from my house. MSC is the military Sea Lift Command. They're the ones that transport all of the equipment here and there and the food and all that other kind of fun stuff. All right. Yeah, squid pro quo. She was a squid. She was a she life. Anywho, Fartbox Kicker says she's full of it. No, I disagree with you. We're gonna read the investigation report that she put together. She's upset by this. So you would ask, well, why didn't she charge him with anything? Because she doesn't have jurisdiction over it. The murder happened in Canton. It's the Canton police. The Canton police were the ones that would charge her with murder. The Stoughton police didn't have jurisdiction over the murder. So she was incredibly limited in what she could do. And he resigned very shortly after the incident. There's not a lot she could do, really. So she gets to conduct this internal investigation and do what she can to get the feds to bring the case. Yeah, I don't trust the Canton police either, and we're going to find out more why. Right. Let's read the second statement. This is a longer one. And this was on June 24, 2024. To the Stoughton community. As part of our ongoing review of the deeply troubling pattern of events regarding the life and death of Sandra Birchmore, we have been engaged with counsel as the family of Sandra is suing the town of Stoughton. Sandra's family has hired a pathologist who has issued a report as part of preparation for the civil lawsuit. We have received and reviewed the report and are aware that the Boston Globe and other news media may have received the report as well. My statement in response to the report is below. The Stoughton Police Department is committed to transparency in this matter, and we will continue to provide updates as they become available. As chief of the Stoughton Police Department, I have directly participated in this lengthy and aggressive internal affairs investigation. In September of 2022, I released an executive summary which revealed for the first time the horrific injustices, including grooming and SA, inflicted upon Sandra Birchmore at the hands of one rogue and corrupt former police officer, and additional inappropriate. See, this is some of the, when I said it was going to get worse, when I said the bad continues to level up in this internal affairs investigation, this is part of it. This sentence here. SA inflicted upon Sarah Birchmore at the hands of one rogue and corrupt former police officer, and additional inappropriate sexual relationships by other former police officers. Sandra was not just groomed and abused by Farwell. She was abused by other police officers in Stoughton. She was passed around. I wish I was joking when I said it gets worse. It gets worse. It has been my stated mission, guided by both my understanding of the policies and procedures of the Stoughton Police Department and my own moral compass, that this process must be as transparent as possible and that we follow every lead and shine light on all aspects of this horrific chapter in our history, no matter what. I need to be clear that our police department has no jurisdiction over the investigation of Sandra's death, that's what we were just talking about, which occurred in a different community. However, I will reiterate that the Stoughton Police Department has assisted and continues to cooperate with other law enforcement agencies, the feds. Sandra received not so much as a sliver of justice during her life, and we will not cease in our efforts to ensure our duty to administer justice, and she is not forgotten in the aftermath of her death. As part of our ongoing work with other agencies, I have uncovered relevant investigatory information over the course of both the Stoughton Police Department's internal affairs investigation and in our mandatory preparation for the pending lawsuit filed by Sandra's family. We have and continue to turn over all information to the appropriate agency or agencies. However, as a police administrator and investigator with decades of experience, I would be remiss if I did not remark that I have reviewed the findings of the outside doctor retained by Sandra's family. I was profoundly disturbed and troubled by what I read. While I am not a trained medical examiner and I am not qualified to draw any direct conclusions, the findings certainly warrant further examination at the highest levels. As always, we will continue to assist with any effort to ensure that truth and justice prevail. Every good and decent police officer should be aware of and angry about the injustices inflicted upon Sandra Birchmore. Sandra idolized police officers and what policing stood for in America, and she was victimized as a result. That is a goddamn powerful paragraph right there. That sentence is an incredibly powerful statement. Sandra idolized police officers and what policing stood for in America, and she was victimized as a result. The only mantra of good cops must be never again and never, ever on my watch. Right. That's the those are the two statements I wanted to read from the Stoughton police chief. Now, what have we got here? We've got about 20 more minutes. Hey, we just hit 500 likes. Thank you everybody for that. I appreciate that. You guys rock. Thank you very, 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 very much for that. You make me happy. All right. Maybe she needs to pay more attention to her watch. She seems to be the only one that was conducting this investigation, though, you know. So we've got the 60-page internal police report here Hear her out. She's the only one that's really doing anything about this. Brittany says, for those of you who don't know, I live in Massachusetts. 20-minute drive to Boston. Canton is like a 2-hour drive. Massachusetts need to clean house majorly. This amount of corruption doesn't go unnoticed. I want to cry, scream, cringe, and take a shower all at once with this case. And that may not be a bad idea. Yeah, people were giving lots of WTFs during the passed around part. Just wait. Even the dogs have pieced out. I think we have. Can we see? Yeah, there we go. We've got Strawberry back. Yoda there on the floor in the veranda. There we go. Let's put Yoda on camera there. Right. Legal Vices, is there any more on the Francis Scott Key Bridge accident? That's going to be forever. That's you're not going to hear much about that for at least another year or so. Other than there's really nothing other than just like how long it took to clean up the containers and get things open again. But as far as the legal aspects goes, it's going to be forever before we hear anything on that. Moves very, very slowly, unfortunately. Right. Here we go. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for the break there. Don't have any reason to not continue. Share screen. And yeah. Flux says, other than my boss bitching about it every day because of the commute now. Yeah, Flux is directly impacted by the Francis Scott Key Bridge incident. Her boss yells at her. All right. Chief McNamara from Deputy Chief Holmes, February 8th, 2021. Oh, thank God Duncan, Idaho steps in. I was trying to think of a reason to delay this, delaying us with memberships. Thank you so very much on this non-monetized show. This is deeply, deeply appreciated. Duncan, Idaho gifted a Legal Vices membership, and it went to Morak 101. If you happen to be Morak 101, make sure you give Duncan. Oh, Duncan Idaho has just also gifted another one to Terry. Terry got the gifted membership from Duncan, Idaho. Thank you so much. There you go. Terry and Morak 101. Say thanks to Duncan for gifting you a Legal Vices membership. Thank you. Thank you, Duncan, Idaho, for that. Appreciate that. There's the other one. All right, now let's get back into it. Deputy Chief Holmes, February 8th, 2021, report completed and submitted on August 29th, 2022. So February, about a year and a half. It was about a year and a half investigation. Chief McNamara, pursuant to your directive of February 5, 2021, to conduct this investigation, I hereby submit the following report into the matter of the unattended death of Sandra Birchmore and into the possible violations of the policies, procedures, rules, and regulations of the Stoughton Police Department. I keep wanting to say Stoughton. Let me see if I can. I think that's as big as we're going to get. Yeah, it's too big. All right. We'll go with this size here. Chief McNamara. Okay, we just read that. Investigative directive. This administrative investigation was conducted to determine any violations of policies, procedures, rules, and regulations of the Stoughton Police Department by any of its employees. This investigation began as a result of the unattended death investigation that was conducted by the Massachusetts State Police into the death of Sandra Birchmore of Canton, Massachusetts, formerly of Stoughton, Massachusetts, and a former participant in the Stoughton Police Explorers Program. Investigative reports and evidence in this case was shared by the Massachusetts State Police concerning personal relationships that members plural of the Stoughton Police Department had with Ms. Birchmore. Plural, that members of the Stoughton Police Department had with Ms. Birchmore. Melanie Little says Stoughton. I was soundly. See, we pronounce Stoughton. Stoughton. Well, Stoughton. I was soundly criticized the first time around for continually saying Stoughton. It's Stoughton. All right. Anyway, that's just me trying to delay a little bit more. Throughout the course of this investigation, there was an understanding between the Massachusetts State Police and me that should any evidence be discovered concerning criminal culpability involving anybody connected in any way to this case, that I would refer that information to the Massachusetts State Police for further investigation. Well, they did such a fucking good job the first time around. Why not give them the information again? Yeah, they were so on top of this murder investigation that never happened because somehow it magically turned out to be a self-deletion, according to the medical investigator, the medical examiner. Yeah, why not give them another bite of the apple? This shit should be kept so far away from the incompetent. But see, again, I think the good thing about all this coming out is now it's probably going to force the Massachusetts State Police to get off their ass and do their own investigation, and for the Canton folks to charge this guy with murder at the local level. This is probably going to force their hand to it, because how do you read this shit and not charge the guy with murder over there in good old Canton? So that might be one good thing that comes of this. Just keep it away from Judge Bev. That's all I ask. They're going to refer the information to the MSP for further investigation. Per policy, the chief of police received weekly updates as to the progress of this investigation. Standard 52.2.4, and on occasion with more frequency when relevant. A determination was made in the early stages of this investigation that disclosure of allegations to employees who would eventually be identified would jeopardize this investigation. So if people show up, again, smart move, people show up in this internal investigation, they're not going to be told about it. So if they think there's going to be, the employees are going to be identified, they just didn't tell them. So shh. Don't tell them about it because it might affect things. And Liz, thank you so much. Lindsay, why did I call you Liz? Lindsay, thank you so much. You get a ship's bell for that, for gifting 5 Legal Vices memberships. Lindsay gifted a membership to Funston, Siobhan, Montpelier Texan. Oh, Siobhan, I'm sorry, you didn't get one, but you're a member already. You're just replying to Jem. Let me try again. Funston, Montpelier Texan, Sneaks, Teresa Elliott, and Scarlett Sullivan. You got the Legal Vices memberships. Siobhan, who's already a member, didn't need it anyway. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Let's jump back into this. Thank you very, 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 very much. So they're not going to tell people that might potentially be named in this, so they don't jeopardize the investigation. An approximate timetable was provided and updated as information developed. Some delays in the processing of data were beyond the control of this investigator. Any dispositions or findings are based on the preponderance of evidence standard of proof. Introduction and background of investigation. On February 4th, 2021, the Canton Police Department responded to a sudden death. The call originated as a well-being check from the employer of victim Sandra Birchmore. The call came here to the Stoughton Police Department, as Birchmore's address of record was something we can't read because YouTube. Furthermore, communication directed that Canton Police do the well-being check at this other address, as Birchmore had recently moved there and she had not reported to work in several days. The victim, Ms. Birchmore, was pronounced deceased at the scene by a Canton paramedic. She died from something. Very, 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 very redacty these people are. She died from something. Asphyxiation, I guess. That's what I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess it's asphyxiation. Yes, we need more green in here. We need more members. We need more green, says Lindsay. Everybody banish the gray. Banish the gray. Make the gray go away. Make everybody green. That's how we do it. Let's get a green war going. All right. Sorry, that was just me. All right. On or about February 5, 2022, you were contacted by a detective from the Massachusetts State Police Detective Unit that is assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Yeah. That Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. Lally. The nature of the call was to notify you that a former member of the Stoughton Police Explorers program now terminated as of 2016 of this department, had something. The trooper related to the former police explorer and victim Sandra Birchmore had been in a sexual relationship, I guess, or in an abusive, perhaps. I don't know. It ends in an, so maybe an abusive, I guess, or an improper relationship. Well, why would they redact improper? I don't know. Relationship with Detective Matthew Farwell for an extended period of time. He indicated that on the day Ms. Birchmore died, I guess, the other troopers and Canton Police Department responded as they ordinarily would to any unattended death. The Massachusetts State Police had been contacted by friends and family of the victim, Ms. Birchmore, alerting the detective unit to the relationship between Matthew Farwell and Birchmore. Concerns were something. Please see exhibits. It was further relayed that the Massachusetts Medical Examiner's Office took jurisdiction of the body and later confirmed that the victim, Ms. Birchmore, something. The preliminary investigative information showed Detective Farwell on the video surveillance of Ms. Birchmore's apartment approximately 4 days before she was discovered deceased. Farwell spent about 20 minutes inside the apartment. Further investigation by Massachusetts State Police indicated that Farwell had known the victim, Ms. Birchmore, since she was approximately 13 years of age. 12, and began a sexual relationship with her at age 15. Text messaging developed by the Massachusetts State Police investigation indicated that Farwell had sexual relations with Ms. Birchmore when she was age 15, and that Farwell did something. The substance of the conversation shows that Farwell corroborated this action. Rare in the history gifted a Legal Vices membership to Star Chris Z. Star Chris Z, you got a Legal Vices gifted membership from Rare in the History. One less gray out there. Thank you very, very much. The investigation by the Massachusetts State Police did not yield sufficient probable cause with which to charge Matthew Farwell with a crime at that time. Because they didn't fucking do an investigation. They didn't do a goddamn thing. They said, oh, look, here she is. Well, I think they said she had a backpack strap around her neck or something. It wasn't a duffel bag. It was a purse or something, or a belt. I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't. They didn't even get what she had around her neck right in the damn initial report. They said, look, she has something around her neck and she's tied to a doorknob. The medical examiner comes and goes, looks like a self-deletion to me. It's a suicide. It's not investigated. So this whole investigation by the Massachusetts State Police did not yield sufficient probable cause with which to charge Matthew Farwell with the crime of that time. This is nearly a year after the incident, and they're saying their investigation didn't have enough. Come on, Massachusetts State Police. You guys need to get your shit together. Stop protecting the bullshit officers that work for you. Stop covering shit up. Stop ignoring things. Stop being half-assed with your investigations. After discussing with you, me, and the appointing authority, a decision was made to place Matthew Farwell on paid administrative leave, given the nature of what was known at that point in time. Paid administrative leave. What did they know at that time? Knew that that he was grooming her, knew that he had committed statutory rape, but that paid administrative leave. If they knew of the statutory and only placed him on paid leave, that's some bullshit. I hope to God they didn't have that information yet at this point in the conversation. As discussed with you, me and the appointing authority, a decision was made to place Matthew Farwell on paid administrative leave, given the nature of what was known at that point in time. Ultimately, the Massachusetts State Police investigation would determine through the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner that the cause of the death of victim Sandra Birchmore was, let's hope it says suicide under there. Analysis of the victim's communication shows extensive dialogue between herself and Matthew Farwell. Or homicide. Let's hope it says homicide, not suicide. We don't want it to say something. We definitely do not want it to say suicide under there. We want it to say homicide. Sorry, I misspoke dramatically there. Ultimately, the MSP investigation would determine through the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner the cause of death of the victim, Sandra Birchmore, was homicide. Let's hope it says that. Analysis of the victim's communications show extensive dialogue between herself and Matthew Farwell. When Matthew Farwell told her that he had arrived at her apartment and she told him to come up, Matthew Farwell was the last person to see Sandra Birchmore alive. Given the volume of data, the town authorized the assistance of outside investigators. PI Paul the Italian. There's a guy in Massachusetts named Paul the Italian. Paul the Italian was initially brought in to assist, and we would later bring in PI Robert Fries and Michael Bates as an IT consultant. All investigators are retired ranking members of the Massachusetts State Police with extensive investigative experience. Strawberry has rejoined the conversation. What's up, Straubs? Good to see you there, girl. Sounds like the oldies should be unretired. They seem much better at investigating than the current Egypts. Yeah, great. So Strawberry just came back long enough to pick up a bottle cap to chew on. All right, fine. We'll go back to Yoda. Bring back the olds. They know what they're doing. Much of the initial investigative steps were centered on a PDF document that contained a download of data from the victim Sandra Birchmore's laptop. The laptop had been synchronized with her cellular phones. A later analysis of the cell phones provided a data pool that was less cumbersome and easier to identify users and people with whom the victim Sandra Birchmore was having discussions. Data was provided to me in Cellbrite format for easier and more organized analysis. The investigation would show that Matthew Farwell had a long-standing, I'm guessing, sexual relationship with the victim Sandra Birchmore, and that his twin brother, Officer William Farwell, had a sexual relationship with the victim Sandra Birchmore. Yeah, dude's got a twin brother. Dude has a twin brother who is also a police officer who was also in a relationship with the deceased Sandra Birchmore. Yeah, this is one of the it got worse steps. The fact that dude is sharing this child he groomed through adulthood with his twin brother, who is also a police officer. Mariko True says, and where is Officer William Farwell's indictment? Well, stand by and stay tuned for that. Because if you saw the press conference that was held after they arrested Farwell, the FBI said, without really saying, that there are other people being investigated. Because people are, well, what's coming next? He's like, we're not talking about other things and other people that may be the subject of a possible ongoing investigation. The FBI is still actively investigating this matter. So stand by to see if he joins the list. I hope this list, part of me hopes that there's no one else on this list, but part of me hopes that every single asshole that was involved in this is on that list. As disgusting as the one cop abusing a young girl, he allowed his brother, his twin brother, to use her. His twin brother. It got worse, but it gets worser. As Axl Rose sang, it gets worse here every day. The investigation would later show that Matthew Farwell had a long-standing sexual relationship with the victim Sandra Birchmore, and that his twin brother, Officer William Farwell, had an, we'll say, inappropriate or sexual relationship with the victim Sandra Birchmore. I really wish they wouldn't redact this because it makes us speculate. And I don't like the speculation. I would rather just know what it says. It's like Inception. The investigation. You know, I said it gets worse after it's been revealed that his own officer twin brother was involved with her. It gets worse in the next sentence. So stand by for the next sentence. The investigation also determined by a preponderance of the evidence that Officer Robert Devine had a sexual relationship with the victim Sandra Birchmore. Another officer. The investigation shows evidence that, we'll say, sexual behavior took place between Matthew Farwell and Sandra Birchmore, and that that Robert Devine was engaged something of Matthew Farwell and William Farwell as his understudies. Matthew Farwell had groomed and abused this child through and on into adulthood. He shared her with his twin brother, also a police officer. There's beyond a preponderance of the evidence that Robert Devine, who by saying he's his understudy, was their mentor, their supervisor, or somebody like that. So somebody above these two brothers, this Robert Devine guy, it was apparently some sort of mentor to him. He was getting after Birchmore as well. She was being passed around to his fucking twin brother and their mentor, their advisor, whatever you want to call it. Oh, Slidey Pie says, thanks for streaming on Rumble. I can chat here. Yes, you can chat here. And again, hi Rumble. You're the redheaded stepchildren over there, but hi, I'm looking at you. I don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. And you can only speculate, and with probably with good reason, that she was not the only victim of these monsters. Where there's one, there is a likelihood of being more. If there are any other victims of any one of these named people, I hope to God they will find the strength to come forward and share their stories with the authorities. And if these three are involved, there's got to be more officers involved. Where one is a rogue. When you get around three, that becomes a club. That's a club. So there's got to be more officers involved and more victims. As disgusting as that is, it's just it just makes sense that it is. Jennifer with the 10 pounds. Sometimes when you cover stuff like this, I wonder why I follow you. Then I remember it's because you will tell us the truth. Yeah, I'm like I said, I the monetization is off for this. I'm not doing this for the prurient interest in the story, for the salacious details. I'm just doing it to expose this shit to the light. This is horrific. I wish I was playing Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney video game right now, which is probably what I'll do on Thursday or Friday to cleanse the palate from this. Laurie Vandeville, thank you so much for the Canadian 10. Because of his penchant for very underage and incestuous sexual fantasies, I am concerned for Farwell's children. Well, I hope nothing has happened, but we can pretty much rest assured that he ain't going to be around him again, ever. Island popping on over into Rumble Zone to say howdy to the Rumblers. Voodoo Berries, thank you so much. Robert Devine used to be the Stoughton deputy police chief. Well, isn't that just fucking wonderful? Isn't that great? He used to be the deputy police chief. Great. Yeah, Siobhan says, oh yeah, hell no, she is the only victim. Yeah, right. Exactly. She ain't the only victim, and they ain't the only ones involved. It can't be. Buddha Berries member for 15 months. Devine ran the Explorers program and used to be Stoughton PD to like, oh, hey, cool. You just repeated what we read. But you shouldn't have wasted your monthly membership. Thank you so much, Buddha Berries. Appreciate your research there. Who's going to flip first? I hope nobody flips, because you flip for a plea deal. I want every one of these fuckers involved in this to just get wrecked by a verdict. Just take him into a federal maximum security prison and just tie him spread eagle to a fence during rec hour. That's all I think. I have zero tolerance for this shit. I have zero empathy for anyone that's a perpetrator of these acts. If anybody's found guilty of this shit, have fucking at him. I don't care. And this is why I am a big proponent of the death penalty. I think it's not being used enough. I just think it's being used improperly, unequally, and unfairly. There are people that I believe have lost the right and privilege of breathing the same fucking oxygen as I am. And anyone found guilty that's involved in this case falls squarely in the list of people that have lost the right and privilege of breathing my oxygen. I don't want you here anymore. And I want you to go out in a slow and horrific manner. This is why I can never be a politician and I will never be a judge. Ugh. All right, well, let me see if I can find a good cutoff point here. All right, so we'll wrap this up right when we get to the executive summary, and we'll pick up where we left off tomorrow. Well, I'll scroll back up here. God dang, brother and fucking supervisor. Contact was made with some participants of the former Stoughton Police Department Police Explorers Program, SPEC, to determine if any. So congratulations, these guys are going and talking to other of the explorers to see if there are other victims of these guys or anybody else involved, to determine if any appropriate behaviors, actions, or abuse took place beyond what was made apparent through evidence initially obtained. We also interviewed department members and a family member of Sandra Birchmore. Notwithstanding the resignation of any prospective targets of this investigation, interviews were drafted and strategically planned. They have multiple targets. Again, good thing. Anima Rumperes, I was just above you. Real Patriots parties, the death penalty should be exercised every weekend and streamed on Rumble. And Sergeant Schultz, thank you so much for the $5. If you've ever worked where people were screwing around, everyone knows what's going on. Yeah, sometimes it's pretty damn obvious. But good on them to talk to other people. To the furthest extent possible, we exhausted all investigated resources. The investigation represents a crossroads between the statutorily authorized investigative authority of the Massachusetts State Police detectives assigned to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office and the appropriate sharing of information in order to carry out a comprehensive administrative investigation. At a point early in this investigation, there was an understanding that the Massachusetts State Police still maintains primary jurisdiction over any criminal activity that the administrative investigation could reveal. To that extent, the understanding was that if I found evidence of a crime, I would stop the administrative process and refer this case, as well as all evidence, back to the Massachusetts State Police. Excuse me. One witness came forward alleging that Something was done by Matthew Farwell. I want to know what's behind this black bar. One witness came forward alleging that something was done by Matthew Farwell. That matter was referred back to the Massachusetts State Police, and unfortunately, the victim in that case did not cooperate with the interview process. It's going to be mentioned in the executive summary below. I conducted a review of the administrative investigation of Robert Devine. That was conducted by investigator Paul White. I reviewed the findings as well as the entire case file. I conducted personnel file reviews of somebody, and probably multiple people, Matthew Farwell and William Farwell. Several civilian witness interviews were conducted. A conclusion of fact is detailed below. Now that's where we're going to wrap this up today. What we're going to do next is there's going to be an executive summary. Then they're going to go into an intensive an intensive recitation of facts. There's going to be lots of exhibits and stuff like that. So, people, this is where we're going to end this today. So we're going to pick up again on page 6 of 60 tomorrow. I doubt we'll finish it tomorrow. We'll have to see how much we can get through. It'll likely go into, I don't even know what day it is anymore. Thursday. It'll likely go into Thursday. And this is just, well, we don't need this on screen here anymore. So just so you know what's coming up in the next little while, we're probably going to be doing this on Wednesday and Thursday. If not, we'll do something else on Thursday. I don't know what yet. Friday, we will likely do part 2 as a palate cleanser to this nightmare. We'll probably be doing a dramatic reading and gameplay of Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Part 2. You don't have to have seen Part 1 to enjoy Part 2. Part 1 was you got your friend off on a murder charge for murdering his girlfriend. You got him off on that. But something has gone wrong, and part 2 is another trial. So we will be probably doing that on Friday. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Part 2. And then beginning on the 16th of September, the United States Coast Guard is holding public hearings on the implosion of the Titan submersible. We'll be following that at least for a week. I think it's on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I think there's like one day, and I think it's Thursday, they're not going to be doing it. But yeah, we'll be doing that as long as it takes. They have about a week and a half planned. They said it could be less and it could go 2 weeks. But we'll follow that as long as there's interest in the Coast Guard investigation into the implosion. And after that, we are into Sarah Boone territory. Starting on October 7th, it's supposed to go straight up till near Halloween. So that's what we're going to be doing all of October, from October 7th, probably for 2 to 3 weeks. And then in the few days before Halloween, we will do what we did last year. We'll have Edgar Allan Poe and Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft readings, short story readings, and spooky stories. Maybe do a special Maritime Monday for ghost ships or something like that. But that's what we're going to be doing for the next month or so here. We're kind of booked solid. It should be fun. And rip James Earl Jones. Yeah, I saw that. James Earl Jones has left the building. Manders 13, The Cask of Amontillado. I think we read that. I think we read that last year. I think that was one of the stories we read. It was. We read that last year. I remember reading that. But yeah, we'll read some of the same stories we read. We're going to be definitely reading The Raven. That's my favorite Edgar Allan Poe story. We'll be reading The Cats of Ulthar for Flux. Yeah, we'll see. I'm putting the list together. Right. I'm seeing where we can send you now. By the way, we're here at the end. 422 of you are still here, and we have 552 likes. Come on, just get down there and hit 40. Just hit the like button 48 more times. That's all we need to do. Let's get us up to 600 likes. You know, that'd be super fun and awesome. And please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, this is the last grifty beg for this. Please do me a favor. We picked up 10 subscribers today. That is really super awesome. Thank you so much to the 10 people that subscribed during the course of this show. Anybody else wants to, please go down there and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification button so you don't miss a single show we do. I've told you what we're going to be doing for the next little while. Don't miss it. And take our like and subscribe poll over here. Again, this case is such a horror show that I don't even know what to do for a poll. 28% you said you hit the like button. 4% of you said you subscribed. 45% of you said both. And 30% of you said there are no other options. Just do it. And that's the end of the poll. And let's see what we've got in the super chat department. Duncan, Idaho, dropping the $10. Massachusetts police have done a lot in recent years to tip the entire nation's predisposition significantly towards vigilantism. What do you do when the police are the bad guys? Trust them to police themselves? That is the catch right there. That's the problem, isn't it? All right. Going into the YouTube studio here to see where we can send you. Who is doing what? We sent you to Nick Starro last time. So we'll see if there's anybody else streaming anything for a different place we can send you today. Meanwhile, please continue to hit that like and subscribe button. Grift. Oh, yeah, and the F at Friday will probably be the last Friday of this month. I'm going to be going. Oh, there. All right. Again, real quickly, Friday. We normally do a stream on Friday evening U.S. time so that I can go out and have a good Friday night and relax and do stuff. The stream Friday will be a Friday morning U.S. stream. It'll be this same time on Friday because Saturday morning my time I'm bugging out and I'm going camping for 3 days. I'm getting out of here, taking the dogs, disconnecting, and just gonna go and smoke cigars and drink way too much whiskey in a forest on the ocean. It's great. All right, we are now in the motion. We're redirecting to who is the lucky winner. Megan Fox is live with a medical kidnap update. Let's go see Megan Fox and her medical kidnap update, shall we? We're going there. Make sure because Megan never pays attention to chat. Make sure you get her attention and tell her that Legal Vices sent you. And don't worry, for those camping, there's a good possibility I will be intoxicated enough to join Hayden for a lingerie football, a titty ball, as we like to call it, on Saturday morning U.S. time. I will also be I'll be filming me making a steak the manly way, the proper and only way to cook I guess it's about a 3-pound tomahawk steak. Salt, pepper, fire. The end. We'll do another one of those streams. All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me during this ridiculously heavy case. Stay tuned tomorrow. Join us again for the next installment of this internal affairs report. Mods, thank you so much for being here. Chat, thank you so much for the support with the super chats, the gifted memberships, the monthly memberships, and thank you for just being here, being good people, keeping each other entertained, and appreciate it, guys. You'll never really know how much I actually appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Me, Legal Vices, just reminding you that I love you guys, and whatever you do, make sure you enjoy your legal vices. See you tomorrow.